Bobby Moore's horrifying end at just 51 years old revealed the devastating truth about how England's greatest football captain was abandoned by the very establishment he once served with such distinction. The man who lifted the World Cup in 1966 and became a national treasure died forgotten and financially ruined, cast aside by a football world that had once celebrated him as their finest defender. Robert Frederick Chelsea Moore was born in Barking, Essex on April 12, 1941, into a working-class family with modest means. From an early age, he showed exceptional talent not just in football but also cricket, even captaining the South of England Schools cricket team alongside future World Cup teammate Geoff Hurst. His athletic versatility suggested natural ability across different sports, but football would become his destiny. At 15, Moore joined West Ham United's ground staff in 1956, receiving coaching while participating in youth matches. The club's academy system involved senior players mentoring younger talents, and Moore benefited greatly from Malcolm Allison's guidance. Another key influence was Ron Greenwood, who oversaw England youth and would later manage West Ham. In 1958, Moore signed his first professional contract with West Ham. Just 3 months later, at only 17, he made his first team debut on September 8th, wearing the number 6 shirt that would become synonymous with his legacy. Ironically, he replaced his mentor Malcolm Allison, who was recovering from tuberculosis and would never play for West Ham in the top flight again. Initially described as a good schoolboy player but by no means exceptional, Moore's rise to world-class status came through sheer hard work and dedication. His coaches were impressed by his keen positional play and innate ability to read the game, which enabled him to avoid dangerous situations despite not being the quickest or most mobile player. This intellectual approach to defending would become his trademark. By the 1961 season, Moore had established himself as a pivotal first-team figure. His presence ushered in a golden period for West Ham. He led the club to their first major trophy, the FA Cup, in 1964 with a 3-2 victory over Preston North End. The following year, he captained West Ham to European glory, winning the Cup Winners' Cup by defeating 1-8-6-0 Munich 2-0 at Wembley. Moore's exceptional performances earned him significant individual recognition. He won the Football Writers Association Footballer of the Year award in 1964 and was named West Ham Player of the Year 4 times between 1961 and 1970. During his 16-season tenure, he made 646 league and cup appearances, contributing 27 goals. His leadership qualities quickly became apparent, and he first captained his country in 1963, receiving the permanent captaincy during 1964 friendlies. He would accumulate 108 caps for England, 90 as captain, a record for an outfield player that stood until David Beckham surpassed it in 2009. The pinnacle of Moore's career arrived in 1966 when he captained England to their historic World Cup victory, defeating West Germany 4-2 in the final at Wembley. However, even this triumph was nearly derailed by controversy. A contract dispute with West Ham left Moore technically ineligible to participate. Only direct intervention from England manager Alf Ramsey, who summoned West Ham manager Ron Greenwood to resolve the differences, allowed Moore to captain his country. The iconic image of Moore wiping dirt from his hands before receiving the Jules Rimet Trophy from Queen Elizabeth II became legendary. For this achievement, he received the BBC Sports Personality of the Year award, becoming the first footballer to earn this honour. Yet, even in triumph, tensions were brewing beneath the surface. Moore's greatness stemmed not from raw speed or aerial ability, which were average at best, but from exceptional footballing intelligence. He possessed extraordinary game-reading skills, keen positional play, and an uncanny ability to anticipate opposition movements. This intellectual mastery enabled him to marshal his team with calm authority and deliver perfectly timed tackles. The 1970 World Cup brought both glory and controversy. Moore's performance against Brazil, particularly his battle with Pelé and Jairzinho, became legendary. Pelé himself described Moore as the finest defender he had ever faced. However, the tournament was overshadowed by the infamous Bogota bracelet incident. In May 1970, just days before the World Cup, Moore was detained for 4 days in Bogotá, Colombia, after being falsely accused of stealing a bracelet from a hotel jewelry shop. Despite immediately protesting his innocence and offering to be searched, Moore was formally charged and detained. The incident sparked diplomatic intervention at the behest of British Prime Minister Harold Wilson. Moore was conditionally released and remarkably played in all of England's World Cup matches. Colombian authorities ultimately concluded he was innocent, though the case wasn't formally closed until 1972. The consensus suggested the incident was either an extortion attempt or deliberate disruption of England's campaign. Despite his exoneration, the Bogotá incident cast a long shadow over Moore's career. It's widely believed this false accusation cost him a knighthood, creating an enduring stain on his reputation regardless of the factual outcome. The vulnerability of public figures to false accusations and scandal's lasting power became painfully evident. After 16 seasons with West Ham, Moore departed in March 1974, transferring to Fulham following a long-running feud with manager Ron Greenwood. The relationship had deteriorated to the point where Greenwood allegedly blocked Moore's lucrative transfer opportunities. At Fulham, Moore played 124 games before brief spells in the United States with San Antonio Thunder and Seattle Sounders, and in Denmark. Despite his vast experience and unparalleled leadership credentials, Moore faced significant challenges in post-playing management. He struggled in coaching roles with non-league Oxford City, Hong Kong's Eastern AA, and Southend United. A particularly devastating episode involved missing out on the Watford manager's position despite a handshake agreement with Chairman Elton John. Other directors' concerns about Moore's lack of experience in that specific division cost him the opportunity. Moore often expressed feeling shunned by the footballing establishment and cast into darkness by the wider football world. Harry Redknapp openly accused West Ham of betraying Moore after retirement, citing instances where he was asked to leave Upton Park for not possessing the correct ticket. The Football Association also failed to offer him meaningful coaching or ambassador roles. The rigid system failed to value his immense playing experience and leadership qualities in a managerial context. Compared to contemporary footballers, players of Moore's era were poorly paid. His 1966 World Cup bonus was a modest £1,000, equivalent to approximately £17,000 today. Upon retirement, Moore faced significant financial difficulties. He had established business ventures through Bobby Moore Limited, some successful, but others that nosedived into trouble. A notable failure involved attempting to convert a stately home into a country club, which reportedly cost him most of his lifetime earnings through legal fees and creditor payments. These financial pressures, coupled with his struggle to secure stable employment in football, contributed to periods of deep depression and ultimately led to his marriage breakdown with Tina Moore in 2008-1984. The stark contrast between his public image as an immaculate footballer and his private struggles revealed the immense personal cost of fame and inadequate support systems for transitioning athletes. Towards his life's end, Moore worked as sports editor for the Daily Sport newspaper from 1986 to 1990 and subsequently became a football analyst for London radio station Capital Gold from 1990 to 1993. Moore faced significant health challenges throughout his life. His first cancer diagnosis occurred in 1964, 2 years before the World Cup victory, when he was diagnosed with testicular cancer. This was treated successfully, though publicly reported as a minor groin problem. In April 1991, Moore underwent an operation for suspected colorectal cancer. Tragically, on February 14, 1993, Moore announced he was suffering from advanced colorectal and liver cancer. Just 7 days later, on February 24th, 1993, Bobby Moore passed away at age 51. He was the first member of England's 1966 World Cup winning side to die. Moore's death sent shockwaves through the football world. His funeral was held at Putney Vale Crematorium, with the first West Ham home game after his death seeing the Boleyn ground awash with floral tributes. Fellow World Cup winners Geoff Hurst and Martin Peters placed a floral replica of his number 6 shirt on the centre spot. A public service at Westminster Abbey on June 28, 1993, was attended by all surviving members of the 1966 team. These posthumous honours suggested collective realisation of his immense importance and desire to honour him appropriately in death, potentially compensating for past oversights. When viewed against the earlier narrative of his shunning by the football establishment, these tributes represented a form of redress for previous neglect. Moore's legacy extends through various memorials, including bronze statues at Wembley Stadium and West Ham's grounds. The club officially retired his number 6 shirt in 2008. He was inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame in 2002 and named in the BBC's 100 Greatest Britons. Perhaps most significantly, the Bobby Moore Fund for Cancer Research UK, established by his widow Stephanie Moore, has raised over £31 million since 1993. This support contributed to bowel cancer mortality rates dropping by more than a third since 1993, transforming personal tragedy into lasting public health legacy. While widely celebrated, the fact Moore was never knighted despite the Bogota incident being cleared suggests lingering injustice. This contrasts sharply with his OBE and immense posthumous honours, implying certain official circles retained suspicion or deemed the scandal too damaging for the highest national honour. Bobby Moore's story remains a powerful narrative of triumph, overshadowed by systematic failure. England's greatest football captain died forgotten and financially ruined, abandoned by the establishment he had served with such distinction. The man who wiped his hands clean before lifting the World Cup deserved far better from those who claimed to honour his memory only after it was too late. The tragic heart attack that took Bill Shankly shocked a city, but how he lived is even sadder. He built Liverpool into a machine. He made fans believe, but in the end, the man who gave everything to football died heartbroken. Bill Shankly spent 16 years as a player at Preston North End from 1933 to 1949. He was a club hero and even became captain of the team. By 1949, Shankly was 35 years old and had lost his first team spot. He started thinking about becoming a coach instead of a player. When Carlisle United offered him a job as player manager in March 1949, Shankly took it. But his exit from Preston was bitter. The club's bosses and some teammates were angry he was leaving. They refused to give him a testimonial match, a special game to honour his years of service. This hurt Shankly deeply. In his own words, it was the biggest letdown of his life in football. This early betrayal would shape how Shankly viewed club owners for the rest of his career. After leaving Preston, Shankly began his journey as a manager with smaller clubs. He took charge of Carlisle United from 1949 to 1951. In his first season, he helped them climb from 15th place to 9th. The next year, they finished third, just missing promotion, but then trouble started. Shankly accused the Carlisle board of breaking a promise. They had agreed to give his players a bonus for finishing in the top 3. When the board went back on their word, Shankly quit in protest. He would not let his players be cheated. Shankly then moved to Grimsby Town. The club had fallen from the first division to the third. Shankly took a pay cut to manage them, showing he cared more about ambition than money. At Grimsby, he ran intense training sessions and nearly won promotion in his first season. But over the next 2 years, Grimsby lost steam. The club could not afford new players. Key players were sold. By January 1954, Shankly had enough. He quit again, saying the board lacked ambition and support. His next stop was Workington, a small club in Cumbria. They were near the bottom of the 3rd Division North. Shankly saved them from finishing last and lifted them to 8th place the next season. But Workington was run on a tiny budget. Shankly had to do office work himself, answering the phone, typing letters, and even collecting the wages from the bank each week. The stadium was shared with a rugby team, and the rugby officials ran the board. Shankly argued with them often about the poor pitch and how football was treated as less important. In November 1955, Huddersfield Town offered Shankly a job as assistant manager. He took it right away and left Workington. Shankly later proudly said, "I was never sacked in the whole of my life." He always left on his own terms, choosing his principles over comfort. After time at Huddersfield, Shankly joined Liverpool FC in 1959. The club was in bad shape. Their training ground, Melwood, was a sorry wilderness. Shankly demanded full control before taking the job. Then he got to work. In his first year, he cleared out 24 players. He brought in new talent like Ron Yates, Ian St John, Kevin Keegan, Ray Clements, and Emlyn Hughes. He created what became known as the Liverpool Way. This included the famous boot room, high-pressure training, improvements to Melwood, unity among players, and always putting fans first. Success followed. Under Shankly, Liverpool won 3 league championships, 2 FA Cups, and a UEFA Cup. He brought in the anthem, "You'll Never Walk Alone." He created an identity for the club, saying simply, "We are Liverpool." Then, on July 12, 1974, Shankly shocked everyone. At age 60, just weeks after winning the FA Cup, he announced his retirement. No one saw it coming, not even his players or closest friends. The news stunned Liverpool fans. They jammed the club's phone lines, hoping it wasn't true. The Liverpool Echo newspaper ran the headline, "Soccer Bombshell, Shankly Retires." Even fans of rival team Everton were shocked. One Everton supporter said, "You'll have me crying. That's terrible." Shankly said he was retiring for personal reasons. He wanted to have a rest, spend more time with family, and maybe get a bit more fun out of life. His wife Nessie had encouraged him to consider stepping down. She said, "What I want, and why Bill is retiring, is for this family to get a chance to see more of him." But there was more to the story. Shankly had set very high standards for himself. One player said the pressure of living up to his own legend became too much in the end. After the 1974 FA Cup final, Shankly felt completely drained. The thought flashed across his mind that maybe it was time to stop. What happened next was cruel. Despite all he had done for Liverpool, Shankly was not offered a director's role or any formal position. The new manager, Bob Paisley, and chairman John Smith kept Shankly at a distance. They wanted Paisley to build his own authority. Shankly was a man who could not live without football. After retiring, he kept showing up at Liverpool's training ground out of habit, but he was eventually told to stop coming. The club thought his presence might undermine the new manager. This rejection crushed Shankly. Friends said he became increasingly bitter about being shut out. Kevin Keegan later called this the saddest thing that ever happened at Liverpool. Shankly soon regretted his decision to retire. He admitted it might have been the biggest mistake of his life. His retirement became a terrible wrench for him. In the years that followed, Shankly felt lost. He occasionally sat in the stands as a regular fan. He once said his career had been a long sacrifice with little real enjoyment. His bond with the supporters stayed strong. He even joined them on the famous Kop stand in 1975. Oddly, he found more love from Everton than from Liverpool's own bosses. Then, in September 1981, just 7 years after retiring, Bill Shankly died suddenly at age 68. He had a heart attack on September 26th and went to Liverpool's Broad Green Hospital. At first, he seemed stable, but on the morning of September 29th, he had another massive heart attack and died in the early hours. His death was unexpected. Shankly had stayed active and appeared healthy. He never smoked or drank. The timing made it even worse for Liverpool as a city. The area was already suffering from economic problems and the recent Toxteth riots in July 1981. Shankly's death felt like another blow to an already wounded city. The public response was huge. Both Liverpool and Everton cancelled their training sessions when they heard the news. At the Labour Party's annual conference, people stood for a minute of silence to honour Shankly. His socialist principles and working-class values were well known. Tributes came in from former players, colleagues and rivals. Sir Matt Busby, the great Manchester United manager, was reportedly too upset to talk to reporters. Liverpool's chairman John Smith said, "In my opinion, he was the most outstanding and dynamic manager of the century." In Liverpool, crowds gathered at Anfield to pay respects. At the first home game after his death, the famous Kop Terrace became a sea of tribute. One fan held up a handmade banner saying, "Shankly lives forever." Thousands lined the streets for his funeral. Shankly was cremated at Anfield Crematorium on October 2nd. His ashes were later scattered on the the Anfield pitch near the Kop end, forever connecting him with the ground of his beloved club. The next year, Liverpool FC created a permanent memorial. The Shankly Gates were built outside Anfield in 1982 with the words, "You'll never walk alone." His widow Nessie unlocked the gates at the opening ceremony. Years later, a bronze statue of Shankly was placed at Anfield with the words, "He made the people happy." Joe Fagan, who later managed Liverpool, suggested that Shankly may have died of a broken heart. The club that Shankly had transformed had pushed him away when he needed them most. Bill Shankly's legacy lives on at Liverpool FC and in football worldwide. He turned a struggling club into champions. He created a special bond between the team and its fans. His famous quotes and ideas about football still inspire people today. But behind the glory was a man who gave everything to football and got too little in return. In the end, Bill Shankly was a hero to thousands who died feeling like an outsider at the club he built. That's the real tragedy of a man who made so many others happy but couldn't find that same joy for himself. The tragedy of Emlyn Hughes began when he collapsed at Newmarket Races in 2003, unaware that a brain tumour was silently growing inside his head. The man who had lifted European Cups, captained England, and became a beloved TV star would soon face the battle of his life. But how did a beloved legend of Liverpool and England fall into drink-driving, match-fixing allegations and bitter teammate feuds? Born in Barrow-in-Furness, Hughes's journey began with rejection. His hometown club refused to give him a trial, forcing him to start his career at Blackpool instead. There, he played alongside England internationals Jimmy Armfield and Alan Ball, showing early promise that caught the eye of one of football's greatest managers. In 1967, Liverpool's Bill Shankly paid £65,000 for the 19-year-old, a massive sum at the time. Shankly's belief in Hughes was unwavering. After signing him, they were stopped by police due to a broken taillight on Shankly's car. When asked who was in the car, Shankly pointed to Hughes and declared, "There sits the future captain of England." Hughes made his Liverpool debut on March 4th, 1967, in a 2-1 win against Stoke City. His wild energy and commitment quickly endeared him to fans, earning him the nickname Crazy Horse after a particularly rough tackle on Newcastle's Albert Bennett. While his first 4 seasons at Liverpool didn't bring major trophies, Hughes was becoming the cornerstone of Shankly's plan. The 1970s would transform both Hughes and Liverpool into dominant forces in English and European football. Under Shankly and later Bob Paisley, Hughes helped Liverpool secure 4 league titles, an FA Cup, 2 UEFA Cups, and most memorably, the club's first 2 European Cups in 1977 and 1978. His individual brilliance was recognised when he was named Footballer of the Year in 1977. His versatility proved invaluable. He played in midfield, at left-back, and eventually settled in central defence. By the time he left Anfield in 1979, Hughes had racked up 665 appearances, placing him 4th on the club's all-time list. On the international stage, Hughes earned 62 caps for England after making his debut in 1969. He captained his country 23 times and scored his only international goal against Wales in 1972. Yet, despite his long service, Hughes never played in the final stages of a major tournament. He was an unused squad member at both the 1970 World Cup and 1980 European Championship. But beneath the success and the beaming smile lay troubling conflicts. The most notorious began in the summer of 1973, when Shankly stripped Tommy Smith of the Liverpool captaincy and gave it to Hughes. This decision sparked a feud that would never heal. Smith, a Liverpool local who had been at the club since 1960, felt betrayed. "It was my club. I'd been there a damn sight longer than him," Smith later said. "Why should I let this two-faced little so-and-so spoil my football life?" The hatred was intense and personal. Smith admitted, "I hated scoring for Liverpool because Hughes would come up and congratulate me. I hated him. He claimed Hughes had few real friends at the club, saying his only mates were straight out of a vending machine. Smith's dislike extended to Hughes's personality, his chattiness, his alleged tightness with money, his need for attention. The animosity played out in shocking ways. After Hughes was injured in one match, Smith reportedly sprinted past him to congratulate Chelsea's Ron Chopper Harris for the foul, saying, "I could get to like you, Harris." When Hughes was bloodied by Leeds United's Alan Clark in another match, Smith allegedly remarked, "Maybe that Clark's not such a bad bloke after all." There's even an unverified claim that Smith physically struck Hughes during a game at Manchester City. Despite the personal hatred, both players generally maintained professionalism on the pitch. As Bob Paisley noted, neither of them let their personal problems affect their games, but the damage to their relationship was permanent. Then came a shocking allegation that would surface decades later. In his 2008 autobiography, Smith claimed that before a crucial title-deciding match against Arsenal in May 1972, Hughes told him that Arsenal players were willing to throw a match for £50 a man. According to Smith, this suggestion disgusted him and cemented his hatred for Hughes. Liverpool drew the match 0-0 and the title went to Derby County. While the allegation remains entirely unproven and was published after Hughes's death, it cast a shadow over his reputation. After leaving Liverpool in 1979, Hughes moved to Wolverhampton Wanderers. His impact was immediate. In his first season, he captained Wolves to victory in the 1980 League Cup final against Nottingham Forest. This triumph completed his set of domestic honours and remains Wolves' most recent major trophy. That same year, Hughes received an OBE for his services to football, but his post-Liverpool playing career was winding down with spells at lower league clubs, including an unsuccessful stint as player manager at Rotherham United. Hughes took over at Rotherham in 1981, and his tenure started promisingly. The team narrowly missed promotion to the First Division in his first season, but things quickly turned sour. By March 1983, with the team struggling near the bottom of the table, Hughes was sacked. Rotherham were relegated 2 months later. Bob Paisley offered insight into why Hughes might have struggled as a manager. His love of the limelight, his enjoyment of praise, and his need for an audience might have been ill-suited to the often solitary and demanding nature of management. After retiring from playing in 1984, Hughes seamlessly transitioned to a media career, becoming even more famous to the wider public. His most prominent role was as team captain on the BBC quiz show A Question of Sport, where his enthusiastic personality and infectious laugh made him a household name. His time on the show produced memorable moments, including famously putting his arm around Princess Anne, breaking royal protocol. In another gaffe, he failed to recognise a mud-splattered Princess Anne in a photo, mistakenly identifying her as male Irish jockey John Reid. Hughes also worked as a pundit for the BBC, covering tragic events including the Heysel Stadium disaster in 1985 and the Hillsborough disaster in 1989. Later, he was a sports pundit for Yorkshire-based station Real Radio, where colleagues remembered him as a complete one-off whose strong opinions generated significant listener reaction. But controversy followed Hughes even in his media career. During the civic reception celebrating Liverpool's 1977 European Cup win, he took the microphone and led the crowd in a chant of "Liverpool are magic, Everton are tragic," injecting unnecessary partisanship into what should have been a unifying celebration. Some critics also pointed to his decision to name his children Emlyn Jr. and Emma Hughes as evidence of narcissism. These moments added to the perception that despite his public charm, Hughes could rub people the wrong way. Then, in August 2002, Hughes faced public shame after being convicted of drink driving. On his 55th birthday, after an afternoon at York Races, police stopped him driving a friend's car a short distance along a public road. A breath test revealed an alcohol level well above the legal limit. In court, his solicitor explained that Hughes's brother, who had suffered a stroke in 1997, had suddenly become unwell. Believing it to be a medical emergency, Hughes decided to drive the short distance to their hotel. The magistrates acknowledged these circumstances, but still imposed a 12-month driving ban and a £400 fine. Hughes expressed deep remorse, stating, "I am absolutely disgusted with what I did. I abhor drink drivers." But the conviction marked a regrettable episode late in his life. The final chapter of Hughes's story began in the summer of 2003. While attending Newmarket races with his family, he unexpectedly collapsed. Although he recovered quickly, a second incident followed when he fell off his bicycle 3 weeks later. Medical examinations revealed devastating news. Hughes had glioblastoma multiforme, an aggressive form of brain cancer. He underwent surgery at the Royal Hallamshire Hospital in Sheffield, followed by intensive radiotherapy and chemotherapy. Despite these efforts, the tumour proved resilient. A second operation left him with permanent damage to his left side. Yet throughout this gruelling period, Hughes displayed remarkable courage and positivity. When told about the grim survival statistics, his daughter Emma recalled him saying, "Oh, right. Well, I'll be the second person to survive then." His family noted that the illness made him even kinder and more thoughtful, and he never complained or succumbed to self-pity. He remained determined to live life as fully as possible, setting himself the goal of attending the 2003 Rugby World Cup in Australia, which he achieved despite his failing health. But his condition deteriorated significantly in 2004. Reports indicated he was left virtually unable to walk, and his eyesight was severely affected. Emlyn Hughes passed away on November 9, 2004, at the age of 57, dying peacefully at his home in Sheffield, surrounded by his wife Barbara and children. News of his death prompted widespread grief and tributes. Former A Question of Sport colleague Bill Beaumont remembered him as a lovely and enthusiastic bloke. Liverpool FC held a minute's silence before their next match, with a spokesman lauding his boundless enthusiasm, 100% commitment, and unrelenting passion. Today, Hughes's legacy lives on. A statue stands in his hometown of Barrow-in-Furness, and another at Liverpool's Anfield Stadium depicts him being carried by legendary manager Bob Paisley. His family continues to honour his memory through fundraising for brain tumour research. But the question lingers, was the man behind the smile as golden as his medals? The bitter feud with Tommy Smith, the unproven match-fixing allegation, his drinking lapse, and claims of self-centeredness reveal a more complex figure than the universally cheerful persona often presented. Yet, despite these controversies, Emlyn Hughes's indelible mark on English football remains secure. His contributions as a player and captain during Liverpool's golden era were immense. His transition to television broadened his appeal, making him one of the most recognisable sporting faces of his generation. The crazy horse, who galloped from rejection in Barrow to the heights of European glory, who captained club and country with distinction, who brought laughter to millions on television, and who fought his final battle with characteristic courage, deserves to be remembered, complexities and all, as a significant, influential, and remarkable figure in the history of British sport.
I always admired Trevor Francis as a player, but learning about his personal struggles really puts things in perspective. Lads, we all know Trevor Francis as the £1 million man of football, but beneath that fame, he was battling silent demons, like his wife passing, a brutal heart attack, and a few more things that took his life tragically. Let's discuss them. Trevor John Francis, born on April 19, 1954 in Plymouth, wasn't just any football player. He was a game changer in every sense. Imagine being the first British footballer to be bought for a whopping £1 million. That was Trevor in 1979, when he moved from Birmingham City to Nottingham Forest. At Forest, he didn't just play. He made history by scoring the goal that won the 1979 European Cup final against Malmö. His career didn't stop at the clubs. He also wore the England jersey 52 times from 1976 to 1986, scoring 12 goals and even playing in the 1982 FIFA World Cup. But Trevor wasn't only about playing. From 1988 to 2003, he switched gears to managing teams like Queen's Park Rangers, Sheffield Wednesday, Birmingham City and Crystal Palace. Talk about a football life. But then, things started falling apart, almost like they were never together. It started with a really tough loss. In 2017, Trevor's wife, Helen, passed away after a long battle with breast cancer. Her death hit Trevor hard, leaving him feeling empty and alone. Helen was more than just his wife. She was his partner and best friend. And without her, life just wasn't the same. A few years before losing Helen, Trevor himself faced a life-threatening situation when he suffered a heart attack in 2012. This scary moment really shook him up and made him think about his health and mortality. He got through it, but it was a wake-up call that things needed to change. Transitioning from playing to managing football teams wasn't smooth either. Trevor had his fair share of bumps along the way. He found managing to be full of ups and downs, with quite a few controversial moments, like being fired on his birthday, which really didn't help his reputation. These experiences were tough and very different from his days as a celebrated player. To top it all off, Trevor also faced financial difficulties, a stark contrast to the days when he made headlines for his £1 million transfer, the first of its kind. These financial troubles were an added stress and far from what he experienced during his peak days as a footballer. Tragically, Trevor passed away on July 24, 2023, at the age of 69 after suffering a heart attack at his apartment in Spain. His death sent shockwaves through the football community, prompting an outpouring of tributes from former clubs, teammates and fans. Through all these challenges, Trevor remained strong and passionate about football. He loved the game and cherished his family, showing great resilience in the face of adversity. He's remembered not only for his incredible talent on the field, but also for his determination and the way he handled life's curveballs. Trevor's story really shows that life can be unpredictable and challenging, even for those who seem to have it all. His journey is a reminder that everyone, even the most successful people, goes through tough times. Trevor's legacy as a pioneering football player and a fighter through personal struggles will always be remembered. He is a legend for sure, but it's only fair to talk about his tragedy when you know his full story. But before we get into it, please make sure to subscribe to our channel for more such heartwarming documentaries. Trevor grew up in a sporty household. His dad was a semi-pro footballer and worked with the local gas board, while his mum was a part-time seamstress. He was practically born to play. Joining Birmingham City as a promising 15-year-old after impressing everyone with his scoring skills as a schoolboy was just the start. He kicked off his professional career with a bang at Birmingham City, making his first-team debut at just 16. He quickly turned heads by scoring 4 goals in a single match against Bolton Wanderers before he even turned 17. His knack for scoring made him a favourite comparison to legends like Jimmy Greaves and Denis Law. In 1976, he scored one of Birmingham's most iconic goals, dodging defenders with a dance on the field and then firing a stunning long-range shot against Queen's Park Rangers. His flair for dramatic plays even took him across the pond to the Detroit Express in the NASL in 1978, where he was nothing short of a sensation, scoring 22 goals in 19 matches. Then came the big move to Nottingham Forest. Managed by the legendary Brian Clough, Trevor became part of a landmark £1 million transfer. At Forest, he was pivotal, even if he missed some key matches due to cup ties. His header in the 1979 European Cup final is the stuff of legends, so much so that it's immortalised in the opening titles of Match of the Day for years. However, injuries began to take their toll. After Forest, he moved to Manchester City in 1981 for £1.2 million, where, despite a strong start, injuries kept him from reaching his full potential. He then had a stint in Italy with Sampdoria and later Atalanta, and even made a significant impact at Sampdoria by helping them win the 1984-85 Coppa Italia. Returning to the UK, he played for Rangers and then Queen's Park Rangers, where he eventually became player-manager. Although his management period had its ups and downs, he left a mark everywhere he went, including a memorable hat-trick against Aston Villa after coming back from an injury in 1989. Not only this, but even his international career was quite impressive. Trevor Francis had quite the journey, with the England football team playing 52 times and scoring 12 goals from 1977 to 1986. His start wasn't great, as his first match was a 2-0 defeat to the Netherlands. He had a tough break missing Euro 1980 because of an Achilles injury, but he came back strong for the 1982 World Cup in Spain, scoring against Czechoslovakia and Kuwait. Despite his efforts, England didn't advance past the group stage after draws with Spain and West Germany. By 1986, he wrapped up his international career with a win over Scotland, but didn't make the squad for the World Cup later that year in Mexico. After hanging up his boots, Francis didn't leave the sport. He moved into management. He took the reins at Sheffield Wednesday, where he was quite popular and even led the team to a third-place finish in 1992. The next year, they reached the FA Cup and League Cup finals, but Arsenal beat them both times. He retired from playing in 1994, but continued managing until the club let him go in 1995, after a less impressive season. One notable episode during his time at Sheffield was when he brought in Eric Cantona for a trial in 1992. Unfortunately, due to snow, Cantona could only play on AstroTurf. Francis wanted to extend the trial to see him on grass, but Cantona walked out, later joining Leeds United and then Manchester United, where he became a legend. Francis later said that bringing Cantona in was more of a favour to a couple of contacts, and the club wasn't in a position to sign him anyway. Francis then managed Birmingham City from 1996, leading them to some solid finishes, but always falling just short of promotion in the playoffs. They did get to the 2001 League Cup final, but lost to Liverpool in a penalty shootout. He was let go later that year. In 2001, Francis took over at Crystal Palace, stepping in for Steve Bruce. He managed a memorable win against Liverpool in the FA Cup and a thrilling 5-0 victory over rivals Brighton and Hove Albion. But despite having a strong team, they couldn't secure promotion, and he was sacked in 2003. Quite the rollercoaster, right? In conclusion, all we have to say is that Trevor Francis's life and legacy remind us that behind the glitz of sports stardom often lies a complex personal journey. Despite his incredible success on the field, he faced significant challenges off it, from health scares to personal loss. His passing is a poignant reminder of the human side of our heroes. Let's honour Trevor not just for his contributions to football, but also for his resilience in facing life's adversities. His story encourages us to appreciate the strength it takes to handle both the victories and struggles that life throws our way. Let us know what you think about Trevor in the comments section below. Also, give it a big thumbs up if you liked this video. As always, we'll catch up in the next one.